Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of the Greens Pod. We did it. So many podcasts don't make it past the first episode. I don't know if there's an official stat for it, but the fact that we're doing episode 3, just like I said from when we first launched, when you do and launch things that are aligned with you, you're going to find a way to make it happen. And I think with the podcast is something that I knew I wanted. I wanted to connect with my fellow community people, but also I knew that I didn't want to be kind of beholden to like a schedule, you know? Do the podcast when there's something to talk about. So we have something to talk about.
Yes, we do.
We have so much to talk about.
Super exciting things coming up at the end of this month.
Yes. So we're going to kick things off with the bong rip. Good old bong rip. Let's do it. Today we are smoking Green Label RX flower. So they were the sponsor for last year's Latinas and Cannabis Summit, which we'll talk more about. But we wanted to shout them out for this episode because we're going to be talking about last year and what we got going this year. So let's kick things off with the good old bong rip.
I love it. Super excited.
Yes, off the mota. I just cleaned them today. So look how crystal clear they are.
I know. And
Yes.
this is like your hubby's brand, right?
Yep, Mota
Bobby
Glass.
over here.
Shout out to our sponsors from last year's summit. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah. See, that's that LA fire right there. Oh, yeah. Classic. Oof. Right? It's like definitely like, I think they have the kind of weed that just kind of reminds me of back in the day. Like there's a couple brands that give me that feeling, and that's definitely one of the ones, you know?
What stream was that?
Let's see. That is Wood. Oh no, it's Woo. Woo 24 by Richie Rich, which is a Green Label brand.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to them as well. But
I love the
it's
name.
That fire, you know? Woo.
It really
Woo
is.
24. Well, I think it's an homage to Kobe
Is it
there.
like woo? Like whoop de woo?
No, it's WOO. So I'm assuming
okay.
like,
Because
woo.
I was like whoop de
Woo.
woo.
I think it is a little bit of that
vibe.
vibe. I think it is, but yeah, we'll circle back about the summit in a little bit. But first off, you know, I want to kind of properly introduce you to the community. You know, I know you, a lot of people know you, but who is Ranchera Mami? Who is Sue? Introduce yourself to the community.
So I'm Sue, aka Ranchera Mami. I have a licensed hemp farm up in the Central Valley in Fresno County. And so I do a lot of like new age, like regenerative farming practices. I've been on the hemp industry, cannabis industry for over like 10 years at this point. I have pretty much
it's a
done
lifetime.
everything from like being this like label sticker and making boxes to like designing like edible recipes to owning like, you know, our own farm at this point in time. So, you know, it's been quite an experience to have all of those like various aspects. Cause like, I'm like, nowadays I'm like, there's people that are starting out and it's like, they're like, okay, well, I have, I work at a dispensary and I'm so excited for them because I'm like, in 10 years, you never know where that's going to take you. That could push you to being your own business owner in this space. And so, I mean, it's just, it's still really exciting to be where I'm at and to continue to grow and blossom and get to come to like do like fun things at this point in time. I'm like coming to LA.
Let's do it.
Like being on like the Greens podcast, I'm like, I love it.
You're like, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
8 a.m. leaving Fresno.
All the girls, I'm like, let's go. We're going to go down there for the day. We're going to go see Susie. So I'm like, this is probably one of my favorite parts about like the new aspect for me because you have to work really hard to get recognition, or either you have to have a lot of money to have the press to have the recognition that you have. And so for somebody like myself that built it off of not having money, I'm at a point where I have solidified my farm, my flower, my presence. And it's super exciting to be able to, be like, hey, I'm here. And I took my seat at the table.
Honestly, sometimes you really do have to take your seat, or sometimes I like to say, build your own table.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, do you even want a seat at that table?
Yeah.
You have to sometimes ask yourself.
No, and you don't always want the seat at that table. At the end of the day, if you weren't invited, no, you don't want that seat at the table.
But I think sometimes, and I think I kind of look back on my educational journey, but like sometimes like going to college and that whole thing, it makes you believe that there is some table out there that you want this seat for.
Yeah.
But then I spent years in corporate and I realized, fuck that seat.
Yeah.
Fuck all of those seats, and we have a really good table that we can build together. And I think that making that jump to be that carpenter and build that table is one of the scariest moments, but it's also like part of my particular journey, So in terms of your journey, one of the things that I found fascinating from the first time you shared your journey is that you're a chocolatier.
Yeah. I always thought it was so funny to say. I was like, and fun to say, because it sounds so cute. You're like, well, I'm a chocolatier.
Well,
like
I immediately imagine you in like Lucy in I Love Lucy, where she has the hat.
Oh yeah,
and in the conveyor belt.
That was me.
Yeah, that's what I picture you as.
I'm not gonna lie, that was literally me. Being able to crawl my way up the ladder of like in the edible, the chocolate like scape of things.
Yeah.
I mean,
the chocolate scape.
It is the chocolate scape. I mean, I literally I put together boxes, and then I got to do toppings, and then I got to actually make the chocolate and temper it. And it was a very scientific process. And it was something that I absolutely on a scientific level, in conjunction to people making concentrates, it's something that either you have the eye for it or you don't have the eye for it. Yeah. But I was also that person that was I was making all the recipes for certain companies. And so I got to play around and actually create different things. So I Love Lucy at the end of the day, because I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna put a Rolo, a little chocolate caramel, and then I'm gonna put a little ruffled chip, and then I'm gonna make a little cowboy chocolate hat out of it. And this is just I want to play around, and I just want to make the recipes. And so, and then I'm not gonna lie either, because when I was on the even when it switched from medical to recreational, and they had cameras everywhere, I was literally eating chocolate and hiding down underneath the metal table.
It's chocolate all over your face.
Well, because I'm it's all medicated and everything like that. I was eating 200 milligrams of chocolate when I worked in the medical, when I worked in the confectionery space of cannabis, because I'm for so many years we could actually eat it and try all of our things. And then we went recreational, and then they're no, you can't actually try it. You can't see how it is. But I loved edibles. And so I'm just how is anybody supposed to know what it feels like or tastes
the plant, you fell in love with the plant via edibles. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I went down to Northern California. Yeah. I was a trimmer. I literally worked on the hillsides and had all different types of experiences throughout that route. But once things started to progress in the state of Oregon, where it was okay, people are more you could see that things were going recreational.
Yeah. That's
when jobs became available on that marketplace. And that's when I came in and I was hey, parents, I have a job, and, I'm actually paying taxes, not just to our state, but to our federal tax system. And so the goal is if it did become legal, is that I would try to get a job on that side. I didn't realize that I would end up being I actually want my own business. I want to do all these other things with it. But I think it was so important to have the skill set and to work on all these intermediate levels of, you know, of the industry, from the medical market to the recreational days, from, you know, understanding how edibles work to, you know, understanding how the plant works as well. So, I mean, if it wasn't for me, like getting to a point where like, I'm like, I broke my hand.
Wow.
I wanted to make edibles, but I couldn't because of the repetition of it. So I went back to farming. And I got a job in the first all-female owned farm in the state of Oregon. And it was so badass to be able to have 2 female like mentors and like one of the like sickest ladies up in Oregon, like teaching me like how to do all of these things. And she was all about regenerative like farming practices. And it was a very beautiful and enlightening experience because I found therapeutic value from actually being with the plants on multiple levels, like from the way that it smells to having the plant and essentially be on your skin. And so it's like you can still absorb like residual properties from it. It's like I never felt like I had arthritis because I was working with the plants, because I always had like resin on my hands.
Oh, I see.
And so like,
do you suffer with arthritis now?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so,
you know, me as well. I kind of I feel some early onset symptoms. And I remember a while ago, my father saying like, kind of like on the low, like, you know, you got to be careful. And like on some kind of like, better be careful. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, runs in your family. And one time I was at the airport, I grabbed my backpack and I put it over and I felt just this discomfort on my hand. Yeah. And it turns out that, you know, it's early onset arthritis. So, you know, we got to use cannabis now in different areas, but I have been using some balms now that I found relief in. But it's so interesting to hear that just through your work, getting cannabis on your hands brought you
it's
relief.
Like rehab.
Wow.
It's like going to rehab, but actually not going to rehab, because I feel like being around the plant has so many medicinal properties.
That you don't even recognize sometimes.
Well, it comes from like the I'm like the rosacea family, right? So, and the roses have the highest like frequency. They have the highest hertz as like permitted, like, or emitted or whatever it is, right? So same thing if it comes from that family. I firmly believe that cannabis as well, like in just the plant itself, has a very, very high frequency. So it's so healing on so many multiple levels of touching, smelling, seeing, you know, whatever it is. And I mean, like, you could be having a bad day and go into your garden and feel immediately better. You could be feeling fatigued for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then it becomes summertime, and then you're ready to plant again.
Yeah, they say,
like,
you know, touching soil gives off endorphins.
Well,
and
there's like the whole Chinese like reflexology practice of like emitting like your feet, or like AKA like your root chakra if you're going into like indie like you know, like yoga like practices, like all of those things highly suggest like being one with nature and like allowing your skin and allowing your body to sink naturally into the plant
going
itself.
back to nature.
And I will be completely honest and say I am not myself when I'm not with my plants. And when I'm not doing things with them.
You're
and
especially
like I'm like the sun, I need all of that right there. So if anything, I highly suggest everybody, like, whatever it is that you're dealing with, get yourself some plants, like, and especially during the summertime, if you have the opportunity to do so, like, find a way to be in a garden and to have that energy exchange, because your mood will boost in ways that maybe at one point in time you needed drugs to do, where you needed to be around certain people. And it's like, at this point you're like, whoa, all I need is plants.
I think one of the great things that I've been seeing specifically on social media, you know, is there, you know, more of a popularity in people having home gardens and like gardening. I know that in general, you know, because of censorship, we say gardening when we mean smoking weed. But I have been seeing more of a trend of these home growers or people just getting into like, you know, taking care of plants at home. So it's really been great to see that. I've also seen like kit companies, like grow grow kit companies become popular. So I think that this whole resurgence of people's awareness of the power of nature has really come, but
and in individual cities allowing for home growing to take place too, because and how they allow home growing to take place, because some people or some counties actually, like for instance, like Fresno County, you can't have anything planted outside, but you can have 8 plants inside, right? So as long as it counts as an indoor structure, you can have that. But you cannot necessarily have 8 plants outdoor. So, which is in general, when you think about it, I mean, that causes a discrepancy in itself, because most home growers, if they were going to grow 8 plants or grow a few plants, they would utilize the natural sun, because running one light typically costs $100 a month. So why not? Why, it basically just limits the functionality out of it, know? So, but I think that where they do allow for like home growing, like I just watched like my friend like Solange, like up in New York, she is like the weed auntie, like up there. And she is a singer, she's also an activist, and she does modeling too. And so one of the things that she did recently is that she took her houseplants, and I found it really hilarious too, because she was like, she took her flowering houseplants and then brought it to one of her community gardens and then planted them out there. And so there's these like little short, tiny things that are already flowering out. And she took them to the community garden up there, like in New York, like, and because she lives in like the New York, like the cities. So it's I mean, home growing right there. Home growing right there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
New York.
I thought Italian, like in New York.
My stepdad's Italian, so I'm like, New York. But I mean, I think that the craze with like home growing, I love to see it in community garden aspects, because I feel like if you're not going to let people grow outside, like, or if they don't have the opportunity to grow outside because they live in a city, then, the community garden is a perfect place for everybody to community plant and to I don't know, educate everybody as well. Like,
there's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
So you grow outdoors.
Yeah.
I see you out there on Instagram all the time doing the work. Can you share a little bit more about when you kind of got to opening up Ranchera Mami? Like when you went from working in the industry to kind of opening up your own?
So when I lived in Oregon, probably about the last year that I had lived there, my fiance and I, we ended up buying a place like in obviously the Central Valley. So before that, I had just kind of found myself consulting for I was doing like ergonomics and efficiency. I was consulting on food and safety regulations for different edible facilities that were popping up, as well as like licensing for like hemp agriculture, like production in the state of Oregon. And during that time, I was going around to all these facilities and I was like, whoa, your flower is horrible. And this is what you're saying is smokable. And they were like, because CBD at the time, they were like, oh, let's push it everywhere. It's in gas stations. And like people were like, well, you can smoke it, but the quality was really shameful, and it wasn't good. And it was honestly, it was degraded material. So it was just like material that was way past the maturation date and had nasty smells to it. And so in my head, I thought to myself, like, there's nobody creating an actual consumable hemp product. Like hemp is, it's the same as cannabis. It's just an actual like federal definition.
Yeah. And it sucks because CBD has so many, health properties, smoking it as well. But I think that for people who have smoked regular cannabis for so long, they think of CBD and they have a negative connotation because of what you said. Yeah. The CBD that we've seen has all been low quality. But if you see like well-grown CBD, it should, have a lot of the same properties, at least visually, and terpene content, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So it's crazy because it's like, I have to say like smokable, but it's like, I'm not even meaning smokable. I'm meaning medicinal at any point in rate in time. And I mean that if this hemp product is also being used for for a concentrate, if it is being made into a byproduct, why wouldn't you want it to be the highest standard? Why wouldn't you want it to be to medical standard, meaning that it has a full panel COA to it, that all the pesticides or mycotoxins or anything like that are in it.
Yeah.
And so when I did it, I was one of the only, like, I'm like looking around, I'm like, I am the only person that's running greenhouse hemp flower at the time. And I did just a small run out of like a 10 by 30 greenhouse and just had a limited amount, sold out within like a week and a half. And I'm like, okay, perfect, And from that point on, it was about being able to progress the crop, being able to make it still accessible to everybody and have more of it at that point in time. But also scaling it to a point where, when you look at it, like in the United States, like there's less than 3% actual farm agriculture ownership by Latinos. Right. Yeah. So for me and like my
which is
fiance,
wild because you think of, farming and labor,
who works it
is so closely associated to the Latino community, whether it's positively or negatively, especially when you think about, election conversations going on right now. Latino community is constantly in the fields, but you just dropped an amazing stat that says we're not owning the fields. Yeah. So how did that drive a lot of your entrepreneurship?
So it's really, okay. 76% owner, there's 76% accountability for the Latino workforce in agriculture in the United States. So again, that 3% ownership is very conflicting because you're like, why aren't we the owners of everything? So for me, my family, I come from like, I'm a third generation, like farmer, rancher, like ranchera, like all of those things. My background or my culture background within all of that, and on both sides of my family, like coming from a Mexican background, but also a very white and German background, and then mixed with, indigenous like background as well, and being very like more like, oh, I'm white passing because like I'm like my last name is Carlton, but growing up in the South and not having a lot of other Latinos around you, like in a state like North Carolina, and then having your mom be like, no, honey, you are Mexican, like you are Latina, like you will be loved and cherished, and then sharing like our culture values. And one of the biggest things for me was it comes from within food itself. So I'm like, there's so many ways that people can identify themselves as whatever. And I'm like, for me, one of the ways is food, but also one of the ways is how I act in my advocacy and my representation, like for my community, and understanding that at the same time, within my role and within being able, when people are like, oh, like you're white passing, like, oh, your last name is this, honestly, the only people that I ever have say that to me, it's not other Latinas. It really isn't. It's not other Latinos. It's other demographics that feel that they want to comment on that because I have always been accepted and appreciated. And I don't know if that's because I have a degree in community health and public health administration, that I specifically went after speaking and doing scientific topical posters. And when I would be a part of events, I talk about the support that we need to give to minority communities, and especially the Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian communities here, like in the U.S., like within the cannabis industry. Yeah. I never had a fight for it because I earned it. Yeah. And if somebody did decide to question it, I got somebody like you, and I got somebody like Lydia, and I got somebody like my best friend. And my best friend is like, she's Nigerian, but she grew up going to the Catholic school, and her Spanish is so fluent. So if whoever would want to say anything that could perceivably make me ever feel like I wasn't Latina enough, one, I don't care. But my friends will. And they'll always let you know that I've held it fucking down for all of us over here. And I will continue to do so. So
that's amazing. So you were saying that, you know, your mom has been a big impact in, you know, your identity and feeling Latina enough. Can you tell us a little bit about your mom, like where she grew up maybe?
So my mom is first generation. Her mother came from Mexico when she was 3 years old. And my abuela ended up raising her whole like family, her sisters and her brothers. They were younger than her. Her mother passed away from cancer. And then
sorry.
my like her dad ended up like coming all the way out to California, whatever, ended up moving to the same county I live in right now, Fresno, was a Ranchero. And so my abuela was left to take care of all of her family. And so they ended up having like a Mexican restaurant. My mother grew up like going and like working at her uncle's like restaurant and everything like that. And it was something that where we lived at, because there's not the demographic of Latinos that people think that maybe they don't even think that Latinos are in North Carolina, because there's not a lot. You'd have to actually go to the agriculture communities for a lot to be present. So it was always really important for me to understand like my representation within that, but as well as like how my abuela felt about things. Like she always wanted to make sure that like, she's like, do you know how to dance? Do you know how to salsa? Like, and all like, so every time I would go over to her house, it was like, okay, like we're going to practice right now. So like, you know how to do these things. And I felt it being very powerful to move to California and moved to Fresno and moved to an area where there were actually a lot of Latinos for me to be around. And especially other women for me to be around, for me to learn about recipes, for me to learn about traditions, all of the things that actually like go into like the culture aspect and having that. Because when I lived in Oregon for 10 years and I lived in North Carolina, so I'm like, my demographic is not that. My demographic was completely different. So
your mom married your dad, and your dad's on the German side, right? Is that what you're saying?
He's English and German. And so
so
yeah,
it's
I'm
not,
like the last name like Carlton.
I was gonna say, so it's not Sue Carlton.
No, but somebody did misspell, because I think they try to make it sound more Spanish. Like they really did. They wrote it a certain way, and I was like, no, honey. I was like, why?
Sue Carlton?
I was like, my family
with the accent on
that side. I was like, no, honey. It's like Carlton, like the dance over here, and I'm like,
well, it's so good that you had that positive influence in your life, you know, because sometimes, you know, we end up losing our culture when we don't keep it alive, you know. Like,
I felt like it was very minimal. A minimal of like, hey, just so you know, like a reminder, like you're like this, and that we cook like this, you know. But also like growing up in that area, it's like, no, but we also have to be very, very, you know, like integrated into it, and like almost at a point where like there was a point where like I think I filled something out, and my mom was like, why did you put that, like you were like Caucasian on there? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, well, because nobody in my class knows, and they were all making fun of like, I'm like, they were making fun of like Mexicans and like saying all these like racist ass jokes. And I was like, okay, I don't, I'm like in third grade. I don't really know if I want to say that I'm that, because they don't think, like they think I'm something, but they don't think I'm that. Like they don't know exactly what I am, you know, but they don't think I'm that. So that's why they're doing that. So I feel like if anything, the best thing that ever happened was being able to come to California, and to actually be in like such a heavy presence of it, where there's all these beautiful characteristics from how, you know, you nourish people, through like, just like gatherings to music to food and, everything like that. So
yeah, we're definitely, I mean, I feel like there was a time in my life where I'm like, I would never leave Los Angeles. Maybe I don't feel that 100%. However, like California, LA, like in Fresno in general, like
I mean, I go to
special.
Miami all the time. Like that's another place I would go to.
Yes.
But I'm like, other than that, I'm like, I don't want to leave. I mean, like I could eat Cuban food, like and Puerto Rican food, but I'm like, I don't want to leave those like base dishes right there.
Like we got to stay close to home or what feels like home. You know? So I want to jump back a little bit to talk about your journey specifically through influencership. Mm-hmm. So we've known each other for a few years now. Yeah. For those who don't know, like me and Sue kind of like came up in a lot of ways, like on the cannabis world. We met like 5 years ago, right? Like around there. And we've just been colleagues, but have been really helping each other out, putting each other on, supporting each other. I think in the way that we feel that there's power in our community when we do that. Yeah. So I feel like we've known each other for so many years, but I've seen you grow in so many different ways professionally. But if you guys follow her on Instagram, her Instagram blew up over the last couple years. And so tell me about how that's been, because a lot of people out here, they try, they go for it, but then they're not quite there. And so what is it that has been impactful throughout this journey? Mm-hmm. And I think for those who like aspire to have that journey, like what can you kind of help them? Like how has it been for you?
So I think it came to being more organic within what I was doing.
No pun intended.
Like, yeah. I mean, realistically, just showing off. Yeah. Showing off my plants, showing off my garden, showing off what I'm cooking, showing off my animals, and it's like, it's something that I feel that one, you don't see a typical person that looks like me in that space. And also that's like, hey, I'm the grower. And I find myself within the complicity of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, people love my grow, right? But they also love me that goes along with it. So I feel like it's taking brand ownership, you know, to begin with. And a lot of times people struggle with that within being able to say, hey, I have this product, I have this brand, and I have this person. Okay, so how can you make your brand, your product, but also you at the end of the day? Because somebody can't take that away from you. Yeah. They can't take away what you individually look like. They can take away your job. They can do all of that stuff, but they can't take away what you look like and what you bring to the table at your the identity, end of the day. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I think that the power that came from all of that was being able to, authentically show what I was doing. And obviously it was a lot easier back, I'm like 2 years ago when Instagram didn't necessarily lock down hard.
Oh yeah. It won't allow you to like live right now.
Post and everything like that. So at that time it was beautiful because I was known with the first video that I had that shot up was, it didn't even have me in it. And I loved it. And I was like, my videos that were getting these million views, it was chicken.
I knew it.
Was chicken with little weed leaves on top and Modelo, because I'm like, okay, like Food's Gone Wild. I threw one of their songs on it. Like, I'm like, this is it right here. And I wasn't even thinking that, because you know what? I was just vibing out and I was making my man dinner and his friends before like they even came home. And I was like, I'm going to post this video. And then it just like shot up and I'm like, okay, that's amazing. I'm like, this isn't even me that's in it.
And it's the vibe you curated. Like,
but now I'm like, I mostly had to have me in it. So I'm like, okay, here I am. No, I don't want to post myself all the time. No, I don't want to over sexualize myself. But this is how I dress. This is how I talk. This is how I move.
Authentic.
And you can feel whatever you want to feel about it. But I'm not planning it all to a T. I'm like, what I plan to a T is my fun and my actually creative, like high-end, like concept, like photo shoots. I'm like, that's what I'll plan to a T.
Wait, so the one with the purple suit and the flower, that wasn't you just at work?
No, we were, yeah, no, exactly. You know,
You
no.
rolled out of bed.
And like Leslie sat there and made like, and she's Latina as well and super amazing. And I'm like, she worked on that thing for like 6 hours.
No, it's amazing. You guys be sure to
6
follow her and
hours.
check it out.
And then like, they just like, they killed
Yeah.
all of that from the photography to videography. But I mean, yeah, I wish that things were a lot easier than like what people seem to think, like with what we're creating in that aspect. But it's funny because I've been able to actually post more plant related things recently without having my things get flagged. Right.
Wow.
And I don't necessarily know what the reason is, nor do I want to like, I don't know, whatever, jinx myself. I don't care. It's not like that. But because for me, I want to post my plants.
Yeah.
I want to show that. And I've had higher engagement than I have with actually like supporting people's product, which goes into when they tighten up regulations, you know, being a content creator. You know, I'm like, hey, whoa, people wouldn't pay me money to talk about their product and smoke their flower. Sure, because I'm just going to be gardening. And yeah, I'll take this little video for you and we'll do all this stuff. But I'm like, what my community loves the most, they're like, in the garden, show off your nutrients. What are you like? They're like, what nutrients company are you using? What set of emitters are you using?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's where my most engagement actually comes from, is like having like questions that are actually based on the garden spectrum.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to see, you know, the growth of, you know, this community and that we're a part in, you know, at the end of the day. But yeah, I think that with influencership, the videos that I've seen people really like is honestly you just working. Like you put on the camera, you're doing your thing. And it's exciting to see. And I think it's a lifestyle that people just aren't like in. You know, I think they're in their offices doing their thing and they see this like person putting in work, you know, so it's inspiring to see. So what are some positives that have come from the page kind of reaching the following as it does? Like I know that there's a lot of positives that it's come. Are you able to share about some fun things that have happened because of it?
I thought this was an ashtray. I'm sorry.
I
just picked it up on camera and I just wanted to just tell everybody I thought it was an ashtray. It's not. It's a candle. It smells delicious though.
It's very pretty.
Okay, sorry. What were you saying? I just got really distracted.
No. It's okay. We just jump back into it. So your page has really exploded, which is great. What are some positives that have come out of it?
So the positives that have come out of it is that I have a brand and I have a farm as well. So whenever people hire me to do projects or I do collaborations with people, I have the opportunity to expand my actual my demographic, you know? So it's like I'm tapping in to so many other demographics that it's beneficial for me. And so while somebody may come and they're like, oh, you know, there's this grinder, I saw this page. And they're like, oh, okay, well, then I look at her page and I'm like, first thing I see in her bio and then her tabs, she's a farmer. And then I'm looking at her stuff. Okay, so that generates more sales for my business at the end of the day. So not only am I getting paid from this company to be able to support them, but I'm also at the same time being able to tap back into my own monetary revenue through my own website as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's
layers to it.
It's beneficial. I love that.
Yeah.
As well as the different experiences that I get to enjoy in life. I think that being able to have this, it is almost like it's like you're like, oh, it's like a privilege, you know. It's like I work for it. It is a privilege because the opportunities that I have, I can have so much more of them, and they come a lot easier. But I also realize that it is also it's also an opportunity for other people, especially other people that I support and brands that I love and people that I love as well. So when I'm able to, you know, work with different people and being able to showcase like my friends and like all of these things that are like that, I feel that's powerful within itself.
I get to give back for sure.
I think that's the definitely pros within it.
Yeah. Now we got to get into the cons, because with every pro there is a con. I think that I've worked in the influencer space through brands, helping influencers connect with brands, and I think that it's been interesting, working with some of the biggest ones, and also working with people who are in the grind, because before you make it, you're just out here creating content and just seeing what's up,
Yeah.
But then there comes a time where you're creating content, and then without the opportunities, right? So then you actually grind, make it there. What are some negatives that you perceive that have really impacted you, but you're still out here, right? So tell us about those negatives.
So, less space, less space for your peace of mind. Because when you have more followers and you have more traction on your videos, then you're going to have more people that are going to say more things. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, the majority of those people that are saying things are actually other women.
No.
And they're other growers, but not on the level that I'm on. So I'm perplexed by it, because I get called out for being a fraud towards other women, like other women that maybe they have a room that's as big as this right here and they're growing in it. And I love it. Right. I would never bash another woman at all. I don't do that online. And I used to be catty when I was younger and on Instagram. I've been on there for 10 years and in my early 20s. So yes, I said a few little things. Okay. But I'm like, being where I'm at now, the interest from other women talking about how you should be and grow, or how you should grow itself, or maybe you're not growing enough, or maybe, hey, it's easy when you grow seeds and they're unplanned or whatever. And it's like, lady, I don't grow seeds that are unplanned. We actually do feminized seed runs. We have to create STS spray. On a genetics level, you probably can't even do what I can do, because I have been trained by one of the best families in the world that created Tangy, Strawberry Banana, and other world-renowned strains that have won multiple cups, from High Times to Hall of Flowers to the Emerald Cup, everything like that. And having my father-in-law and having my fiance as well, like, they're the ones that have showed me everything. So at the end of the day, because when I hear little things like that, I'm like, ladies, I run with men all day long. I'm like, I have to put up with people just being like, oh, you look like you're dressed up today. Or, oh, can I help you with that? Because you have acrylics on. And I'm like, you don't need to. You don't even need to say that. But I appreciate it. I'll let you know when I don't want to open something because I have acrylics on. And there'll be a really good reason for it, okay? But other than that, I'm like, I'm fully capable. If not, I take more time and I'm more meticulous, because I rock with acrylics and I'm wearing something that I want to wear that's nice. And so I work with the plant, and in general, women are just so nurturing to it. So there's cons out of the being online, having followers, because
the more eyeballs, right? And they may be a lot of people that are fans or supporters, if you will, but there's always going to be someone that just they're gonna say it, How have you dealt with haters? I think that haters are tough, because they're intentionally going to hurt you. They're intentionally trying to derail you, and it's like, you can't, like, how do you manage it?
So first and foremost, block. I don't have time for any of these people that are going to sit there. And even if it's something such as the fact of telling me that I should have planted a different way. Listen, you can post how you plant on your thing and go for it. But if you're interested in learning about why I plant in a certain way, feel free to ask me why I plant in that certain way. But if you want to come at it with a negative connotation or any negative emotion whatsoever, or disrespect, or anything that makes me feel unhappy, I don't have time for it. This is my space. This is the platform that I have created for myself. So if it comes to something like that, yeah, I don't have time for it. Also, if it comes to somebody that decides that they're going to continue to bully and harass me, I have a team of lawyers that are ready to go at any point in time.
Ready.
And I do not play with cease and desist orders. So if you decide that you're going to harass me or bully me or try to defame me or slander me in any way, and I tell anybody at the end of the day, I'm like, don't come to me unless you have receipts. Because even if somebody is, saying that about something that's going on with themselves, if you're experiencing those things, you need to protect yourself. And if you're a business owner, you need to make sure that you take your legal right. And you let people know, like, hey, if you're talking about me, like, that's defamation, that's slandering, whatever it is. But other than that, I'm like, yeah, somebody can say a little something. I ain't gonna say anything. But if you just start like yapping and you're just like, everybody's like, they said
there's
this,
some
blah,
yappers
blah, blah.
out there for sure.
I'm like, other than that, I'm like, I don't have a problem with it. I've never had to deal with that with anybody that's like necessarily continue to harass me that I have no idea who they are.
Wow.
And that's the worst part, is that half the time that 100% of the time that people say things on my Instagram, I don't even follow them. They may follow me.
That's what it is.
And
it's
I
like
have
they're
no
trying
idea who
to
they are.
get you to follow them or trying to get you to notice them. And like, it's
Well, I'm not
crazy.
even going to sit there. I'm not self-righteous. I'm not going to tell another woman how to be a woman. I'm not going to be like, hey, just to let you know, a real woman. And like you say, like, women support women and blah, blah, blah. And I saw your things and I saw who you hang out with. And I'm pretty sure if those people saw that you were sitting here telling me that, like, I wasn't an actual like geneticist, and that like I don't intentionally create seeds, and that like you made this like false statement, and then you're like, they wouldn't approve of that.
No,
but you know what? I'll wait to the day that I see you. And when you say, hey, I'm blah, 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 and then you try to like pull up your Instagram account and then you end up being blocked. And then I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, okay, well,
Wait, did that happen?
It has happened.
What?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're telling me that someone came at you online sideways, you blocked them, you saw them later at an event, you guys pulled up each other's Instagrams, and then you noticed that you had blocked her.
And then I noticed I had blocked her. And then it hit me in a flashback because I always, and it's like, I have a really good memory. Like, I'm literally that girlfriend, that wife.
Will not forget.
I will not forget anything. I will know what you did last Tuesday and where exactly you left your chonies and your socks and what we ate, what you said that day.
The socks.
Everything around it. So I'm like, I don't forget anything, unfortunately. Wish I did.
For better,
my
for
anxiety
worse.
would be a lot better. But I'm like, no.
Man.
So when that happened, and when I experienced that, I'm like, I had this flashback moment, and I was like, hey, I'm like, did you actually like comment on my page like at one point in time and like say this? And also, I keep screenshots of everything people say to me online. Like, I have a whole folder on my computer from guys that have sent me sexual messages that are growers, business owners. I keep all those files. Women that come out of pocket and they want to say a thing, because I'm just like, y'all act like you support women. But at the end of the day, I'm like, what you said to me, like, I'm like, you decided to take a dig because whatever reason, because you felt better. Yeah. Or maybe you were upset today, and I don't give a fuck what the reason is, but we learn to be better than that. Yes. And I literally want to say, if you're over 26 years old, I'm going to give a little few passes to a little bit younger girls every once in a while popping off online because they don't know better sometimes. But I'm like, if you're over 26 and you're talking shit to other women online for whatever reason, and talking about other women and complaining about other women, and not coming at it with actual facts, nor just understanding the pleasantries.
Well, the facts don't matter with these folks, I've noticed.
Really.
Because a lot of haters, so one thing I've learned about haters is that the root cause of hating is low self-confidence. And it
really is low self-confidence.
It really is.
Because
and a lack of self-love.
I've been there before where I called somebody out online because I was feeling bad about myself. And I had to have a moment with myself.
Wow, it's really
of
brave
being
of you
like-
to admit that, for
Yeah.
sure.
And again, I'm like, this is when I was like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember when it happened, because when people started to say things to me, that's when I started to realize. I was like, oh, honey, I'm like, now you realize like why this wasn't okay. Because being just humanly in general,
Yeah.
a human in general, it's not our objective, nor should it be our prerogative to tell other people how to move or how to act or how to live without, you know, I mean, there's some things that are on a grander scale that, you know, like you have to be passionate for, you have to advocate
Yeah.
for, right? You know, like our human rights. But there's some things that, you know, we don't need to tell another woman how to be another
like,
woman.
let it go.
Or another person how to
Yes.
be another grower.
Yeah.
Or how to be Latina enough or whatever it is. Like nobody, if
Like,
you truly
who has
love
that
yourself.
kind of time too? Like what is that?
Yeah.
It's really terrible, but I think you're handling it beautifully. And I think that you know, to be able to talk about, you know, the other side of things, you know, empowerment, you know, there's a lot out here that is positive about social media. And I think Latinas in Cannabis, the Instagram is part of it. So you were there since the beginning. I created the Instagram after I just saw an opportunity with like connecting us. I saw so many Latinas on Instagram and I'm like, you're here, you're there, you're there. I wanted to just bring us all together. That's kind of the inception of Latinas in Cannabis, just putting us together, right? And I would share your stuff. I would share our friend Savina Monet. Shout out to her, Oregon crew.
Love her. Love you, Savina.
Yeah, Savina. Buy her art on SavinaMonet.com.
Yeah, get a collage from her.
Get her collage,
Hire
get her sticker packs. But so we were like the 3 original like Powerpuffs, like a long time ago, right? Like us 3 just like supporting each other online, like supporting what we were doing together. And so when I first created Latinas in Cannabis, it was like Sue, Savina. It's like, you know, like
it was us until the other people followed.
Until JM,
like...
JM Balbuena. Shout out to her, Synergy Studios, and Prime Harvest. She's gonna be part of the summit this year too. And so it was like the 3 of us, and I was just sharing as many people, like our friend Monica from Rolling Mamacitas. Like I was finding Latinas with small businesses, and I was just throwing them up on IG. Like you get a promo, everybody gets a promo if you're a Latina small business, of course. So, but then that shit started popping off, right?
Yeah.
Just like, you know, things that people want to see online and communities that people want. Latinas in Cannabis started really doing its thing. And then there we go. Events started happening. So talk to us a little bit about this community and what it's done for you, how it's been being a part of it since like the beginning.
Yeah. So, when Latinas in Cannabis came about, it was when I had already moved to like Fresno County.
Yeah.
We bought our farm and everything like that. And the interesting thing, like at the time, was that we didn't have a big cannabis community up there in Fresno because there was no dispensaries that were licensed yet. They were holed up on regulations and pushing things through in the county. So there was either you go to the Bay or you go to LA, right? And so being able to, because I'm like, I came to every like, and like with our friendship in general, like the things that you were involved in, like cannabis related wise, I was like, okay, you know, like I'm like, if it's a certain type of event, like I will definitely come down and be a part of it. There's nothing like, I keep hitting this like all the time. I'm like, you're still there and I keep hitting you. So being able to come down here, it was really nice because I'm like, we didn't have like something that we could go to, you know, like up in our area, right? And I feel like it really basically like it provided more of a resource base for us. And especially like somebody like myself who's a flower provider and being able to have like all these other like Latinas that are like creating like CBD businesses. And so like start of Latinas in Cannabis was the start of the CBD, like around the time of like CBD businesses for like topicals were like booming. And I mean, ultimately, it really increased the visibility of other Latinas that were in this space and what we all had to like offer, you know, within our circle and everything like that. But as well as like creating visibility for people that had, and you know, I currently, you know, could have like smaller, you know, visible awareness or like smaller like social media followers. And so I feel like it's like connected a lot of people. And it's as well as brought a lot of Latinas, Latina business owners, you know, recognition within this space, and not just from our community, but from the total community as well.
Yeah, worldwide. Latinas in Cannabis is worldwide. No, it's all good. We started in 2020, and I feel like each year we've kind of stepped it up a notch, you know? So 2021 is when we launched Latinas in Cannabis Day, which is now September 30th. 2022, killing it. I think the holiday was just getting bigger and bigger. And then last year, that's when we did the Latinas in Cannabis Summit. Yeah. So you were actually a speaker, a panelist at the last event. Tell me a little bit about that panel, because it was the first panel of the entire damn thing, and it was so good. It was moderated by some amazing Latina in cannabis named Amber. Shout out to her. And then also you were on the panel. Also we had Bianca Starr and Danny from Best Friend's House. So it was great. You know, the title was Latinas breaking into the industry. So you guys all got to share how you broke in. But tell me about the experience of being a panelist on this first ever panel.
So I feel like it's a very honorable, like, you know, position to have and to experience as well, because this was probably like the first time that a lot of us Latinas were actually in the same room with each other. And, to be able to listen and share all of our experiences, and being that, like, you know, for instance, like Danny's from like the LA area, Bianca, she's from like the Bay, and it's like, I'm not from Fresno, like I'm from like the country, but it's like we still all representate like super different styles, like of what a typical like Latina person, even in all of our appearances, like none of us look alike whatsoever, as well as like Amber, like we all have different faces, we all have different, you know, personalities, we all have different backgrounds, different cultures, different types of work. So I think the thing is like we all should be different at the same exact time, you know, because like, why would we all be looking the same? Why would we all talk the same or have the same stories or any of those things? Because we all come from completely different worlds. And so I think that's the beautiful thing, because we were able to share exactly how our demographic and how our classes, how our representation affected how we broke into the cannabis industry. And I feel like that was a very purposeful intention. And so
it was.
I would say like being able to see all of us up there, that's the clear representation of diversity.
I love that. Well, thank you for that. I felt like I tried to get some people from different backgrounds in each panel, and like it was my first time doing it. I certainly don't necessarily come from an events background, but Latinas in Cannabis has kind of taken me there, because I see the ladies really want more events. They want more togetherness. They want these safe spaces that we're creating. And so because I'm, you know, this steward of this community, I'm just like, I guess we're doing events, you know? And the summit, I've had the privilege of being a guest of the We All Grow Latina Summit, which is probably one of the biggest Latina summit conferences in the world. And their summit is 3 days, girl. And it was an impactful experience. I left that event thinking I need to do more with Latinas in cannabis. I need to serve these women and connect us. There's so much to do. So that was something that was always something I wanted to do. So to come out with this summit and to be able to put on so many Latinas that we've supported each other for so many years, and like you said, bring them all together and see what happens. And we saw what happened. Emotions, different kinds of emotions, like girls were opening up, girls were crying, girls were laughing, smoking a lot. That's one of the feedback that I got, like a little bit of feedback that I got, that like it was an actual smokers event. Like people were blazing it. What were some top moments for you? Yep.
Well, I thought it was cool. Like after the event, what was it? The Latinas.
The power sesh?
No, the Latinas.
Oh, the raffle.
The after the event, the press, the Latinas.
Yeah.
Or not Latinas. The what is it? The LA Times.
Yeah, the coverage that we got.
The coverage that we
you
got
were
from
actually
it.
our cover girl.
I was the cover girl for
she
that.
She was the cover girl for the LA Times coverage that we got. It was you puffing on a joint on there, and it was the cover photo there. LA Times came out, guys. They came out to the first annual.
To say that they picked my photo because often at times I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a lot more women that look more Latina than I do. I'm like, people could say I look more Native. They could say I look Hawaiian. They could say I look Asian. I'm like, they don't know exactly. So I'm like, I feel that to be chosen, like the person that they ended up representing, I loved it because I feel like I look like my Spanish abuela. Like I feel beautiful. So I'm like, I thought that was a really amazing, portion of it. I love the tacos. I love that out of every event.
Delicias Internacionales. Shout out to them. They did the food truck last year.
Every event that I go to, people always get photos. I told you this in a message. I was like, people always get photos of me eating food and videos of me eating food because I literally am eating food. As soon as the food comes out, I'm like, it doesn't matter if I've already eaten 4 tacos. I will still walk around with a taco in my hand and like snack on it like throughout it.
Yeah, I'm gonna save this for later.
I think
we had really good food. We also had an awesome coffee and tea truck. Like we had something for everybody, right?
I met so many women that just in general that we've all known, and I'm sure like you too. I'm like, because there was people like Solo Luna, like came in from Texas. So it was like, there's certain aspects of that like where you have people that fly in that you would have never met like prior to beforehand or whatever it was. But they were there for this event. So in that, it honestly, that doesn't happen for a lot of people's events where people like can like fly in and like,
people flew in. There were ladies who flew in from Florida, Vegas, Texas, and when someone came from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And so it was beautiful to see, like you said, that diversity, but people really taking the event seriously. I think as the developer and like of this like event, like that's something that I hope that people will buy the ticket, but like come dress up, like take it seriously. Mm-hmm. This is a place for you to shine. And the way that ladies did, that's what like left me stunned. I remember a couple ladies have notepads out, taking notes at you guys' panels, like having questions, being really interested in learning, but also dressing up and taking it seriously like that. That's something that I really appreciate too. The ladies who are like, I need to look my best. I felt like
everybody dressed up really nicely.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously pink and green were a common theme within that, but also like animal prints. And so, I mean, like that's something that I love to see it.
Yeah, you were the pirate. And then also our friend Karina from Ether Collective.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I'm like, she wore it too. Yeah. I'm like, I loved it.
Guys, the Latinas and Cannabis Summit fashion.
It's a thing. It's literally a thing.
Take it seriously. We dress up. I mean, Latinas, come on.
Yeah.
We're going to look good. We're going to come out. So the fashion show, just come ready. Come ready for these pics.
The fashion show is free.
It's free. It's free for everyone. It's a really empowering time. This year, though. This year is the second annual. It's going to be on Saturday, September 28th. But we're doing things, I think, a little bit differently. All new speakers, trying to give as many women an opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for women who, this is their first time speaking sometimes, or sometimes they're just trying to get better at it. This is a place for this because it's a place to kind of like just get better in a place that's just so inviting and safe, like we've said before. But this year it's on a Saturday, of course, the day before Latinas, and 2 days before Latinas and Cannabis Day, which is the 30th. And we're doing a welcome dinner the day before. So excited. It's you guys just wait.
Yeah.
But the day of, you're going to join us again, right? You're going to be
super hungry
doing
right now.
something really special that we're excited to talk about. Let us know.
We were thinking that a super fun idea to do, because why not facilitate more women growing? And so the idea of, having a garden club, of being able to like grow your own. So during the Latinas and Cannabis Summit, we'll basically be having a grow your own workshop where we can all come and learn about the different mediums of growing, as well as what types of nutrients, how do you care for your plants, and, the utilization of, autoflower seeds versus full term seeds. And so we'll be providing some Crockett Family Farms autoflower seeds. So you'll basically be ready to harvest within 45 to 60 days after planting your little potted soil containers. And so I think it's just it'll be a really exciting time for all of us to interact with the plant.
Have an interactive workshop is going to be fun. Our other 2 workshops, we're going to have a Cannabis PR 101, how to get noticed, how to get in the press, by Sonia Hendricks. She's the owner of Gallery PR. She's an amazing and fabulous New York girl. She comes through with the fashion. I'm so excited she's flying in from New York for this. So I'm really excited for her. Another workshop that we're doing by Jackie Hernandez. She's a researcher. We're going to be doing the power of the Latina vote, really using and remembering that you as a Latina have a lot of power and your voice is your vote. So be sure to come out. So she's going to be doing a lot of blazing the trail for Latinas voting. So she's going to be doing that one. And then your, workshop is going to be the cherry on top, because it's going to be interactive. You working with plants, because like we mentioned in the beginning of the damn show, get back to earth, get back to traditional plants. Like, come on, guys.
You can take home your very own plant.
Yes.
And be able to, reap the fruit in just like 2 short months, pretty much. Like you could literally put it on your windowsill, like here in LA, or you could either, take home your stuff so that you can plant it later on. But I feel like everybody should, learn how to grow, especially like, especially us as women, and especially like Latina women. If you're cooking, like utilizing the leaves of the plant in exchange for like your parsley is like one of like and like your cilantro is like one of your biggest things right there. So
what?
It's like,
I had no idea. How does it taste?
It'll basically taste the exact same. So like, say for instance, like, like you're like making chili verde, like you're going to want to like, you could use cilantro in there, but if you don't have that and you have some like weed or hemp leaves, you can cut that up and then it'll literally have the same like astringent taste within that. So
interesting. The cooking tips by Ranchera Mami right here.
So
I love that.
That's why I'm like, if you don't, there's many ways that somebody can use it, like whether they want to, actually like consume it, or if they want to, use it as an herb. It's beneficial as all of those things. Yeah. So when I love you come to the workshop.
Come to the workshop. You
can just like imagine the possibilities, or press some leaves and make some art projects afterwards, or do whatever you want, but just grow your own.
Grow your own. It's important. It's important, you guys, that we take the plant back. I think especially as this industry continues to grow, it's become more corporatized. It's getting away from us. So remember to take the plant back, honor the plant, and come to this workshop at the 2nd Annual Latinas and Cannabis Summit happening in Hollywood. Tickets are not available. Be sure to check on Latinas and Cannabis LinkedIn. Let them people know where they can follow you, stuff that you're dropping. What's up?
So you can follow me at Ranchera Mami on Instagram, as well as like X or Twitter, whatever people want to call it. I don't know what's up. I really don't. I live in the mountains. And then as well as Facebook and YouTube, my username is all the same for all
I love
of
that. That's so neat.
And just in general, I think like the easiest thing is like, if you want to learn more about like me and my farm, is like go to my Instagram, click like my link tree, like bio, because that has literally all of the companies that I work with, all of my different like website sales channels. So it's like if you want to purchase like like if you want to purchase like THC, like C genetics, like I have like our family's link for that, but as well as like I have our link for like high CBD, like hemp flower and everything
love that.
like that. So as well as like our upcoming events. So it's like you could potentially
Fresno
go to
area, come
my
out.
bio
Yes.
and you could see the information coming up.
Yeah,
about
your events are
Latinas
so
and
fun.
cannabis.
Yes.
So we're super excited to be here, and I am more excited to be able to participate in Latinas and Cannabis Summit once again on some level. So it's really exciting to be able to share more about my growing perspective, because I feel like I got to share my story the last time. So I feel like I get to share about like my actual job
right
this time, like my thing, because they're like, oh, okay, you do all these things. Okay. But mainly what I do is I grow.
The growing part.
Let me show you that part now. Okay.
Like, I love that. And,
that's
and
what,
I think people need to know it, because without your workshop, it would be very business and career focused and like development work. But like you bring us back to the plant and the soil, and such an important workshop to have this year. So thank you for coming through. And you guys got work to do. I'm going to do like that TikTok. You have 30 minutes, 30. Get those tickets before you sell out, and join us for the next episode of the Greens Pod. Thank you, Sue, for joining us.
Thank you, Susie. Susie shows.